The thing about this shortage of beef is that there really is truly not a shortage of animals. We have 38,000 beef farmers across the state of Kentucky that are raising beef, over 2 million head of cattle, and about 1 million cows per se. But the thing to keep in mind is that it is a 2-year process really in getting that animal ready for a steak or a roast. And so it is a little bit longer process, and people don't need to be concerned about a shortage of beef. It's there. They may just see less of one cut one week and more of another cut, or they may have to do a little bit of swapping until we get the chain speed moving at the processors. And that may be just a little while. That's not going to be something that's instantaneous, because as we're starting to open up in our communities, we might start to see the spread of the virus again, and so they want to keep their workers safe too, so that's why they've got to do what they're doing.
When the virus got into those bigger processing plants, you don't have as many workers to show up to work. So our bottleneck is right there in the processing. Got plenty of cattle, plenty of beef, and on the other end, the consumer has really been nice because they wanted our product.
Volatility that we've been experiencing, not just through coronavirus, but all the way back into last year after the fire at the Finney County plant back in August of last year. The volatility that's been in the marketplace has been extremely difficult. There's been so much consolidation, and so much control is in the hands of so few that it's become extremely difficult once again for those of us out here trying to make a living raising cattle and marketing cattle to do it.
When you have 4 packers controlling 80 to 85% of your fat cattle, there has to be something done, or Kentucky has got to look for another industry, because the cow-calf man cannot raise the calf.
The feed yard sector has seen a drop of 30 to 40%, which could be as much as $500 or $600 a head, The backgrounder, which is where we're at, has seen that same drop, the same percentage, and that can be as much as $300 or $400 a head. And so there's been a major upheaval. And of course, at the same time that we've seen this huge drop in the prices of what we're selling the cattle for, we see the exact opposite happening at the retail level, and with the packing segment, what they're selling to the retailers.
The history of the packing business has basically been one of corruption and greed throughout its existence. And there's been multiple times throughout that history where the government's had to move in and do something about it. It culminated with the passing of the Packers and Stockyards Act in 1921. And we find ourselves, in many people's opinions, right back in that same spot we were.
Everybody's mad at the Packers. And so there's been a call for an investigation from the Department of Justice.
A group of us have asked the Department of Justice to take a look at it. Just last week, we had 11 attorney generals from around the country sign on to that effort and say to the Department of Justice, you really need to take a look at this.
Back in 2014 and 15, when we got tight cattle numbers, the Packers closed about 15 packing plants. So when the numbers got really tight, they didn't have any leverage, so they said, well, let's close these 15 plants and we'll take this funnel that's like this and we'll make it like this. Then when the pandemic hits and they don't have enough labor, the funnel gets like that. Now we've seen boxed beef prices get to as high, I believe it's $4.85 during this pandemic. At the same time that was happening, they were buying live cattle from the farmers for 90 cents a pound.
The packers are just buying, if a gentleman has 1,000 cattle, they'll just come in and buy 100 of the cattle. They're making them feed the cattle much longer. The cattle that ties the pens up, so they don't have room for the feeders coming out of the southeast or any place. And it's devastating the market.
Even if we resumed normal packing plant production today, we'd be months working through the several 100,000 cattle that are backed up in the supply chain right now. You've not seen, and I don't think you will see, animals being destroyed. We have some flexibility on the beef side to slow them down extend out the period of time they're on feed and control them a little bit.
We had a load of calves that was ready to sell that weighed that 900 mark right when everything kind of collapsed. And we had some colored calves on there, a couple red calves. And one thing we did that I would normally do to help get rid of that load of 9 weights, we sold the color calves as beefs off the farm, and people ate it up. I mean, we had no problem selling it, and people got the beef and they come back wanting more.
We're getting a whole lot of phone calls. How can I get an animal through to the local processors? So they're all booked up. They're booked up pretty much all up into the fall. We try our best to read the consumer and see if local and what's on that label matters. So we came out with a product that's called Kentucky Cattleman's Ground Beef, sold at Kroger. It's all processed. The cattle are here in Kentucky, the processors are here in Kentucky, the whole supply chain is here in Kentucky. And we've seen a lot of interest in that. And folks, the consumer wants to know where their food comes from, and I don't blame them, they should.
Agriculture is it's a complex industry. And so, what happens here, really it has a ripple effect all across the economy.
Unless the government steps in and does something, the government's going to have to be the one to fix this in reality. And that's kind of sad, I think, because cattlemen are generally capitalism, free market people. That's the way we have built. We're an independent bunch, we're probably the last of the independents.
There are people out there that do realize that, one, this is not going to last forever, nothing does. And two, when we come out of this, there could genuinely be a real opportunity here.